Hi, Sasha the Catalyst here. I am answering some parent questions that have come in for a mini reading. And if you would like to get in on mini readings, I do them about once a month in my Facebook group. And I will have a link for that group and for my website in the comments in the show notes in this YouTube channel. But again, I'm answering these questions anonymously, so I will not be using the name or any of the identifying information from either the child or the parent other than their pronouns. And that's just to protect the identity of the child since they are a minor. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around so you can see this chart, and we'll go over the questions that this parent had. Okay, so the first thing we see is that the child is a 2-4 Splenic Projector, and he is being parented by a 4-6 emotional manifesting generator. And the first thing I want to point out is the Sacral Center here is completely open, so there's no definition in any of the gates. And so that can be a source of a lot of conditioning. Again, conditioning isn't a bad word. It's just that when a person with a completely open center lives in an environment with a person with a defined center, they tend to take on a lot of that energy and amplify it. So my guess is this child, despite being a projector, is actually probably pretty energetic unless they are alone. A lot like the guitar amplifier, an electric guitar doesn't make a whole lot of sound by itself, but when you plug it into the amplifier, you can crank it up pretty loud from there. So that's so that would be one of the tricks, is that this child would need to learn. He would need to learn a lot of emotional regulation, maybe some deep breathing, maybe. I know for my projector child and myself as a projector, sometimes just going outside and being in nature with my shoes and socks off and grounding into the ground. He does have his root center defined, which is great because that will also keep him from getting too off into the distance with that sacral energy. He does have something kind of grounding him and keeping his feet on the ground. So that's good. So the question actually was, he's got 5 of 7 gates defined in the emotional solar plexus. Does that affect his authority at all? It's an excellent question, actually. I'm really glad that you submitted this. So no, he doesn't necessarily have the emotional wave that we talk about when we talk about emotional authority. However, especially with this gate 36, this is defined both by his personality and his which is black, and also the red, which is subconscious in the body. And it's called the gate of crisis. So we definitely need to, one of the questions I ask one of my generators who has the gate of crisis is when they start to have a big emotional reaction, I say, is this a crisis? It's a yes or no question. Now, because he's a projector, that won't work as slick, but what you could do is modify it and say, I wonder if there is a crisis about to erupt, and start a conversation about the crisis feelings that he's having. The other thing to note is that this is based, the gate 36 is actually this channel 3536. I just talked about it in my podcast about the emotional solar plexus, and my podcast episode. And this 36 is based on expectations. So the higher his expectations are of a group of people or a situation or expectations he's putting on himself, this is especially a collective energy, the harder his crisis or his fall is going to feel. So you really want to teach him to have an open mind and lower his expectations. And it's like something I say to adults with this channel, with this gate, would be that expectations are premeditated resentments. So you're going to feel bad if you have an expectation about a party or about a social engagement or about a school interaction. And so try to keep your expectations low and just participate rather than anticipate. And depending on the age of the child, I know this child is is old enough to reason with. So you want to talk to them when he is calm and not emotionally agitated. Again, he has an undefined solar plexus. So again, despite having his own definition in these gates, he is still amplifying the energy in the room. And it will, when you have gates defined in an undefined center, it's actually filtering the emotional energy in any room is filtering through these 5 gates. And so probably the best thing to do would be to to learn as much as you can about these 5 gates and see if you can see the shadows of each of these gates. And you can start to ask him when he's having a big feeling, or maybe on the downside of the feeling. When the big feeling erupts, it's like a wave on the ocean. So just try to be the sand and allow the wave to crash in without reaction. He can be allowed to do that as long as it's appropriate, as long as he's not hurting anyone, as long as he's not hurting anybody's property or himself. Having a big feeling, is not necessarily the bad thing. One of my children with the Defined Solar Plexus goes to his room to have his big feeling and then comes back out when he has more clarity and discusses it. And I don't send him to his room. He's just decided that it's safe for him to scream, cry, yell in there, and then come out and deal with us when he's done having his feelings. So that's definitely a tip that could apply here. Again, just getting him to get outside when he's starting to get queued up and take a few minutes to himself for some deep breathing and grounding would be amazing. Also notice that the 36 is in his design Mercury, or his personality Mercury. So it will be kind of one of the 2 predominant ways he communicates with the world is through that gate of crisis. Again, also because he's a projector and aligned to in his personality and his conscious side. I don't know how much time, I happen to know a little bit about this family and know that he's got a lot of siblings, and I don't know how much time he is actually able to spend alone in his own aura. So it may be wise for him to do some of his schoolwork in his room, or maybe read something or have some video game time in his room. It doesn't have to be non-stimulating. It just needs to be like what I call decompression time, where he needs to be able to dissolve some of the feelings, the big energy he's taking in through his sacral center and his solar plexus. Also, look at this. This is an extra. I'm sorry, I'm way over 5 minutes, but this is a little extra because his will center is open. You can count on, if he's starting to have a really strong will about something, that's actually an energy he's picking up off of someone else. And so, just you can see him as like the emotional barometer. The other thing you might look at here is the 1858. That's a real corrective channel. The correction is supposed to be meant to fix whatever is broken, so that we can have more joy in our experience. So if he's fixing things just to be critical, just say, is that, how can you can kind of redirect that energy. You won't be able to stop the energy, but redirecting it into like, some things are worth fixing and they bring us more joy, and some things are best just to be left alone. If it's not hurting anybody, then just leave it alone kind of idea. So hope that helps. And again, if you have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me by email or by private message. And I encourage you to continue to study, and thank you for your questions.